moment to locate her target. 1v3 is pretty rough. She's looking at the ground. And just not in the greatest position. Alright, next round. Should be looking at where they're coming from right now. Nade, misthrown a little. Not aiming at head. Didn't check this box. Was aiming for center mass instead of head. Should have been aiming for head there, definitely. This is... I was gonna say save round, but she has an AK now. Generally, that nade will hit the middle of ramp, which is very useful. So she didn't check up by crane, and then she got so scared that the CT was able to sneak up on her. I would probably say just don't get that scared. With the Nova, you're not really going to be able to hold anything from T-spawn. That was being punished for quick switching. Again, pretty simple, just don't quick switch out in the open. Looks like this is where she gets her first kill. That was a good headshot. Generally, I wouldn't crouch peek there, but all the same, that's a very common dual angle, and it was good to hit. So you didn't know if that was safe. Yes, I did get a frag there, but you want to peek that with your gun first before you throw a nade. And that nade, while it does hit top of the ramp, doesn't hit any areas where people would be playing cover. If you want to nade something, you're probably better off waiting for us to push up and either nading catwalk or nading bags, sandbags. You heard one on ramp, but it's good to check those stuff. You'd want to check upper more. Yeah. He ended up being there. So you want to not be holding forward when you check that angle. If they are pushing up, you will hear it if they push up all the way, but you won't hear it if they go to this box. So what you would want to do is hold D until you peek it, and then once you're sure no one's there, then because you waited a second, you'll probably have to clear hard left, which is fine, and then you can move on out. It takes a few more seconds, but it's much safer if they post up in Opper or someone with an M4 there. So what I'm looking for is her to pre-aim over window or nade it and then swing out. Generally, you would want more utility, but in Nova, you don't need a full smoke lineup to take mid. Nade was a little high, but good util usage. Didn't pre-aim it that well. And didn't hard check corner, which is a good habit. You saw the shadow of one CT, so you know one is CT, and you hear one CT, but you get opt from behind. So generally, I wouldn't really say that's your fault. Your teammate here should have So, not only did you not aim at head height, but you weren't even entirely looking in the right direction when you peeked out. You want to be doing both of those, and you want to strafe out cleanly. Oh, and you had bomb. Generally, you wouldn't want to peek that with bomb, even if it's usually pretty safe. They don't show aggression mid. You still don't want to peek it first with bomb. It's a bad habit to peek that with your grenade out. You always want to check, because your teammates, yes, they did check it, but timing can fuck you. Nade was fine. In this situation, you would want to have your crosshair to the right of the entrance, about where my mouse is, so that if they swing, your crosshair will be on their head. Currently, it's looking at the wall in front of it, which doesn't really do you any good here. If you're expecting someone to come out of the smoke, you would just want to be looking at the smoke from behind the cover of the box. Good frag, especially since you didn't know where. You're not aimed at head height, and that's kind of just unfortunate. They were inaccurate there, but they still got the kill, which will happen. So I'm looking for you to check there. You shouldn't have done it crouched, but it's that's good that you check that. So you do have a Molotov and a grenade. You would generally want to clear this position with it. So I would expect you to use your util. Pretty unsafe way to use it. If killer peeked over, you're dead. You'd want to be more so in the position I was, under, and trying to bank it at a steeper angle. You threw the Molotov way too far. If you did take this angle to throw util, you would want to either be looking to clear the back angle here, the back angle here, or you'd want to bounce it off right here so it stays in. It seems like you don't know where to look, which should always be where threats can potentially come from. So, more so where you were standing when you had the molly out is where you'd want to be and checking. Even though there's no threat that is known of nearby, you still want to be aiming at head height. Like, this is going to shoot their cock off, but it will not give you any multipliers in this game, unfortunately. Even right now, you know where bomb is, so you should be looking towards points of danger, which could be your flank at this point, but also still generally where the point of contact is. This is just another circumstance. I think what Amy struggles with a lot is that she knows to aim at head height, and for very important encounters where she knows their position, she will aim at head height. But when she's kind of just wandering around, unsure what to do, the crosshair ends up at the feet, which is way better than what new players will do, where it's always at the feet. But when you get caught off guard, you are as screwed as a new player when your crosshair isn't at head height. You don't really need to walk in this position. And you should really be holding from an angle less out in the open. Even if you're doing an off angle, you'd probably want to be below, using this box for cover. Yet again, if there's someone watching this, you just get headshot and die, because you are holding W and D when you come around the corner, rather than strafing out so you can take a gunfight just in case. I'm looking for you to Molotov or grenade window before you peek it. But if you do peek it, then I want you to pre-aim basically where the CT is. You pre-aim too low, but thankfully they had a grenade out. And you were able to get the kill. That smoke isn't very useful because they already have to deal with the smoke in front. You'd want to re-smoke this smoke if you were going to throw smoke over there. Yet again, you aren't really aiming at head height. I know you just threw a grenade, but generally you want to be aiming at head height at the smoke or towards window, depending on what you intend on doing here, if it's holding mid or pushing on to B site. Another instance of coming around a corner, not preparing for a gunfight, you kind of just walk off without checking for danger first. And because of that, you're caught midair with them looking at you. This is the situation where you're actually punished for how you check. You weren't able to accurately shoot at orange because you came around holding W, and because you didn't check hard left and you didn't hear them get to that position, they were able to just kill you before you could deal much damage to orange. Another thing is you are not aiming at head height again. My assumption is because you don't know if an enemy is even nearby, you're aiming at center mass or you're thinking about something else. You always got to train your crosshair on that head height. Bomb is on A site, so I'm not sure about mid here. Good frag, and you checked window. You didn't really check this. You also have a smoke and a Molotov. So my recommendation would have been to Molotov window despite getting the kill, and then peek out mid for information, and then smoke left side if you are able to, so you can get to A side, which would make mid much less dangerous. Now that you have sight and you still have this util, using it to prevent what is likely a B player from rotating would be valuable. Now that you know his position, there's even more reason for you to throw your util. You still have tons of util. And you can't really use it that late, yeah. And that grenade was never going to do anything. This is another great example of crosshair placement. You died to Crane earlier, so you would want to check this. And while you are aiming in this area, they can come from the side of sandbags or above, and you're kind of looking at neither of those. Not to mention that once you clear these, which you want to do behind cover, you still have to deal with shorts. And someone could be holding it with an op, and it can be very powerful in that position. So you always want to check it. And you even have util. So if need be, you can check it and then Molotov it off. But you get caught out for this aggression, though not punished, because they missed their shots. You stood on sandbags before you had turned around. You could easily get headshot, either from sandbags or from Crane. No molly, sandbags. You usually want to be watching sandbags or mollying sandbags at this point. Good kill on default. I generally think peeking from on the wooden ramp rather than closer is better, but it's still good. You would want to now use your util to secure sight off of the advantage. You threw that grenade a little slowly. What you would want to do is peek out only enough so that you can throw your smoke on sight, and then you would want to throw your util past it, or you would want to jiggle peek to make sure it's safe, and then throw your util, still bouncing it off the wall. You shouldn't really ever be in a position where someone from heaven can kill you while you're trying to throw your util here. Again, if someone swung out, you would just be dead. So even though it makes your util easier to throw, the chance of you dying just isn't worth it. You went around the corner holding W again. If someone was watching that, you probably would have died. That's too early. You can throw smokes at that point, though you should probably do it lower. Because they take a moment to bloom, but flashes and nades, you would want to wait a bit before you throw them. That's just too early. That nade will never land on someone. It'll basically never even hit anyone for damage if you're throwing it this early. Here's them to the right. Should be aiming slightly up. And if you're staying in this position, you want to be watching the cross over by orange. And this is the result of it. You hit them for body damage rather than for a headshot. Again, you're aiming at upper chest height. Yes, there's a smoke here, but you want to headshot them when they come out of the smoke, not drill them for 12 damage in the chest. As for the buys, there's no reason you would want to buy nothing for second round unless you're saving for an op, but you do not have enough money to get an op next round. So there's no reason, essentially, to buy nothing. You would want an SMG here, probably an MP9. Peek from Crane there is really weak with the the P2000. Especially when you're alone on a site, you generally want to play more passively. So you can call in rotates more quickly before you're eliminated. But it seems like a pretty heavy B hit. Clearing these corners, still looking at upper chest height. Knowing that mid is being taken, and that a scout can't really prevent a rush, you would want to throw your Molotov and try and get some space near ramp so you can hold B from further back. The Molotov is good, but you would want to throw it from further back. If they happen to get good timing on you, you are immensely fucked. It also went deep. You don't really have info currently of if they are back mid or front mid or window. This only is useful if they are back mid, which they happen to be in this situation. But generally, I would have recommended a window Molotov. You got up on window wrong. You want to slide to the right or jump up on the right so that you aren't inaccurate the first time they see you. Small tip. You would want to press 3 and 1 here real fast instead of scoping twice. Looks like the rotate got called in. You want to pre-scope. Now that this door is open, it's too much of a threat. If an AK was there, you would have died. The defuse kit here with no weapon, I would not recommend. If you want a defuse kit on your team, just in case you get some stuff done and might need it for a retake, Orange should be the one buying it. This is not a position you can hold with the P2000. You would either want to get close and hope they don't use enough util, or you would want to play one of the positions on the right. But such a long-ranged position, you're never going to get anything done with the P2000. And it looks like you still jump up when not safe. And you're mollied off window, which is fine. Peeking out mid with the P2000 against AKs is a little ambitious. If you have the call out that one is really lit, you still don't know if there's going to be another person out there with an AK. You can't really play aggressively with your current weapon. But you get a kill, which is nice. You weren't looking at window as you rotated, which is just a bad habit. Doesn't result in anything here, but if someone ends up having walked up mid, because as we can see there's no mid control, you do want to be checking for that. You should have scoped out before you swung. Pushing out on rafters here is very ambitious, but doing it with 26 health and without walking is basically a death sentence. As you can tell, they saw you before you could see them. They heard you, and with a scout, you really weren't going to do that much damage in the first place. You would want to look right before you walk out into mid, so you can take the gunfight on a somewhat even ground rather than after, where you're heavily disadvantaged. It seems pretty clear that it's an A-take, so you might want to start rotating. A Molotov here would usually be better saved for retakes. Even if we hadn't seen bomb yet, which I'm not sure we have, you would want to save this Molotov. And generally, you should probably have been watching mid here, and some of B, because your mid's not being covered at all. So you're just super vulnerable if someone happens to go there. It's good that you got behind cover there while flash. That's a misaim. You shot when you moved. Generally, you want to stop, scope, flick, and fire, knowing where they were. So certainly, having scoped first is fine. But it appears, but you always want to make sure you stopped, which is something you might need to work on. You re-peaked there, which you can't really do. Once you lost health on the initial engagement, you would want to call it in and then move to a more passive angle, either watching here or watching here from the left side. This is an example where quick switching would have been much more useful. This seems to be a reaction time problem. I would practice your basic flicks on maps like Aimbots, and just get a general feel for your reaction time. Your teammate actually has your back here, so you probably shouldn't re-peek out until they're actively shooting at your teammate. And then he saw you holding this angle as he retreated, so you should probably change it up now that the smoke's dropped there, in case he tries to wallbang you through the smoke. Which, holy shit, he did. You wouldn't want to crouch peek that. You would just want to stomp around and do it. Because you're at such a positional disadvantage if they peek you while you're crouched out in the open like that. And generally, if you're peeking this angle, you would want to do it immediately. You waited longer than I personally would to peek that angle. In a situation like this, there's no reason to not be looking up at window. You don't know what your teammate has going on. They could get shit on. Just keep your eye toward danger. I guess it would also be acceptable to be looking at B main, but you just check that. You jump up on the unsafe side again. Not recommended. You push out. Generally, you just want to stay behind cover, unless you have a strong feeling someone's in the corner, but it's smoked off. This is definitely the big piece of danger, and you're not aimed at head height here either. And then someone peeks out to punish your missed position. You fall down behind sandbags. Actually a pretty decent spot to hold, but you can't crouch peek here, especially not at 10 HP. You don't immediately go to retreat back in cover, which is pretty certainly going to spell your death at 10 HP. So, how you would want to peek this angle is keeping your eye, first off, on this corner and listening for footsteps, because CTs can get very aggressive. And then you would want to hold D and peek out. Specifically, either jiggle peek or swing peek. What I saw you doing a lot of the time was this. Like, if you see someone here, best case scenario, you can running spray with the AK. You are completely unfit to take that engagement in that circumstance. So that's why you want to hold D and then straight. Stop yourself. And then you're good. You cleared that. So then, a small chance someone might be there. But shouldn't really be concerned with it. Mainly you want to check hard left and hard left cubby, just in case someone gets by and decides to hide. This will prevent probably quite a few auto shotgun deaths by you. And then you can check up here, but again, someone probably won't be there. Then you're going to want to throw your util over. And then you're going to want to pre-aim here. Okay, another thing I saw was you were taking engagements here. And then you would go behind cover injured, and then you'd peek back out, maybe even slowly. What you want to do is move back and then hold from here. A completely different angle that they have to peek you into. Or if they get across here, you can hold from the pillar, either here or here. When you wanted to jump up to mid, you always did it like this, which makes you vulnerable. What you actually want to do is either go like this or just like this, which makes it much safer. With this new wide opening here, you always want to be aiming either here or here as you come out. If you were going to go out this way with your scout, you'd want to hug the wall and walk, and then peek out. Probably here or here. It's just a bad idea overall, but if you are going to do it, you need to walk out. You don't want to get your feet shot off by the op, but you don't want to be completely stuck in a gunfight that you might want out of. So what you want to do is to get somewhat close to the wall and then peek out with your gun. They'll probably be crouched, but they might not be. So somewhere further back like this, or even closer to the wall. But you'll want to take the peek and then stay standing. maybe kill someone, and then you'll want to either clear as you come over, or you'll want to go back. When you were going A, you struggled with both crane and you struggled with short. So something you can do, first off, you can either kill or fuck up someone who peeks crane. It's just a bad spot to peek, but you have to deal with it. So you can get up here and crouch, or you can come back here and just barely peek it. Right? Up here is generally just not safe for the CTs to peek, but you still have to clear it. And then you also want to clear here. So once you have all that done, you're pretty safe. You probably want to molly or smoke some of it, but that's not always going to happen. But so once you have a pretty good idea of that, then you want to peek out and clear here. And then you want to come across and make sure no one's in cubby if it's been late enough into the round that someone could realistically be there. Once you get up to sandbags, hold this if need be, right? Peek, peek, make sure no one's holding sandbags, jump up, make sure no one's on pillar or close crane, and then hold this until the molly goes off. Let's say the molly goes off now. Want to hold it for a second. Is there any burning? Let's say no. Then you're good. Sandbags is clear. Then you can start peeking out here, especially headshot and main, and you'll probably get fucked heaven. So you are in this position. First off, you can come down a little, and it's way easier to clear headshot. Right, second off, what you should be doing is throwing util. Anything works. That was not very good, but anything works. That prevents basically that whole half from being useful. And now you can get bomb planted down once you clear here and come across. And maybe you'll have to take some gunfights here. But that's just 2 pieces of util, and it makes it a whole lot easier to take site.